Sometimes when I'm thinking about us, before we got lost and we parted, back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, but this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. Sometimes when I'm reasoning about us, I know you got me, it's so effortless. Back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, but this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the FPV News. It's good to be here with you and you, Blunty. How you doing, man?
Good. How about you?
I'm good. It's good to be here. It's good to be back.
Yeah.
It's good to be talking about FPV news, which, as we all know, is nothing but DJI news. How many DJI stories we got this week? 15,
Yeah.
16?
I think we got one DJI
only have-
story.
Only one? We're going to do
Yeah.
it first, though, right? We're going to have it right up front, and we're going to talk about it for like 20 minutes while everybody gets sick of our BS, and then...
No,
No?
because it's not super big news, so we actually put it near the back. So it'll be interesting for DJI users.
I heard you. I heard... Which we have to create balance within the force, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to put the DJI news last this week. Not quite last.
Yeah. If it's big news, we let you know. If it's like medium, small news, we put it, where it belongs. That sort of thing. So.
Yeah. Get back there, DJI. You're not the only thing we'd like to talk about.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you guys for being here. We do have a slate of news in the world of FPV, but just take a second and check out the chat and tell you guys we're glad you're here. See a lot of people in chat today. The stream is 1 hour long, boo. Phantom FPV, Flying Sandal, Captain Bry, lots of notable people. June Loco, RC Ritter, Thomas Schultz. Oh my God, so many people. It's so good that you guys are here. It's time to stop recognizing you and start delivering on the promise of the news and actually do PSAs, public service announcements. We have an important PSA today.
For some
anybody,
people, yeah.
For some people.
For limited,
for anybody.
Yeah, for anybody who's purchased a TrueRC set of antennas for the HDZero goggles.
Mm-hmm. Those little clip-on antennas, right?
Yeah, we've got some information for you. So Ryan Kloa has let us know that he made a mistake. He posted this on the HDZero group as well, but in case you missed it, he made a mistake and he sent the wrong sizing over to Hugo, TrueRC. And so he has offered to print these for anybody who has the wrong one, who received the wrong one. And he's also provided a proper Thingiverse link, which we've linked down in the show notes in the video description, which you can access to print your own corrected version as well.
Good. Yeah, we've got that down there. Hey, mistakes happen. This, of course, is one of the killer features of the HDZero goggles. I mean, among many, but the ability to clip these antennas on and have a nice low-profile patch antenna that you can put away without, like, worrying about ripping it off like so many other goggles. And so seems like Ryan maybe just got in a little bit of a hurry or something. Kudos to him for, just coming right out and saying, hey, I screwed up. I want to make it right, and taking the steps to make it right. He's even personally going to print one for you if you need to. So the antennas are fine, though, right, Blunty? Just the little 3D printed clip isn't right. Yeah,
it's just a little too big to fit on the rail, I believe.
Yeah, okay. Well, if you ordered those and you get the wrong size clip, that's why, and this is what to do about it. But if you ordered them and you don't have the HDZero goggles yet, which I don't think anybody outside of test pilots and does.
I think that's correct. Yeah, I think they should be shipping out pretty soon. But yeah.
Okay. I'm waiting for mine. That's for damn sure. I'm excited to get them. Try them out. My policy is usually that I would rather wait until there's a commercial release rather than get stuff pre-release and then have it be beta and firmware updates and
especially I think especially someone with like HDZero who's not like trying to make hardware and who's making a lot of revisions to make sure everything's correct and who would be happy to make a revision the last minute if they needed to. Like, I would agree with that. It's probably better to get that commercial set. So.
It is a little bit painful to see. I mean, I'm sure if I had said 2 months ago, I want to be first on the list, I want to test them out, I'm sure that, and I don't want to presume, but I think they would have sent me one. And it is a little painful to see guys who already have them starting to post content and go, but I want to post content. And then I'm like, but I said I didn't. I said I want to wait until they're done. And I'm going to stick by it. So, Torpedo Law says, Blunty's here. We need someone to keep JB in line. Is that what you do? Do you keep me in line?
I think sometimes.
You're probably right about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not as much as
I think my subdued reactions sometimes are draw you back in.
Occasionally, you'll actually I'll be like, this is bullshit, and you'll be like, well, and I'll be like, how dare you disagree with me and be right?
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, we've got some news related to the Caddx video receiver. Now, this is a weird one because it says that the title says delayed. But some people have already gotten theirs. So how is it delayed? What's the deal?
That's correct. Well, they didn't make them all already, basically, is why we got delays. So basically, if you ordered one of the Walksnail VRXs on the sale or, separately, they are working as hard as they can to get these things completed and shipped out. They expected to get production done a lot sooner. There were delays. And then I don't know if whoever's been following, basically, essentially, China was very locked down on COVID protocols. They've backed off on that stuff pretty heavily, and that ended up causing basically a big wave like we've seen here in different countries, in the United States and various places. So I think they're going to be dealing with that currently. And then unfortunately, what we wanted to kind of remind people of is in addition to this, on January the 22nd, Chinese New Year starts. So that means from Chinese New Year will be January 22nd to February 5th. So it is possible that depending on how bad it is, you may not see these come out till February 5th or even later, depending on how sick everybody is and where everything works out. So
the entire country of China shuts down basically for Chinese New Year. Everybody leaves work. If you're new to FPV, welcome to a thing that happens every winter here in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yes.
And
was
so
a
whatever
early. We got it February 1st last year. It's January 22nd this year. But just be prepared for that.
Yeah. Somebody was in the comments or somewhere, I don't remember where, and they were like, well, they took the pre-orders, they got the money, they knew they needed 4,000 or however many sets of receivers. Why didn't they just make them all? I'm like, it's not that simple.
I agree. It's not that simple. My counter to that would be, why didn't they just move back to projected dates as people ordered them? That would be where my head would be, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think many people would have been happy to still continue to order these even with a projected date 20, 30, 40 days out past where it was. I think people just want to know when they're going to get it, you know? And I think people expected that, hey, you're going to have these made and you're going to be prepared to do this because you still said the 10th this entire time and you know how many you're selling and you're telling us about quantities and you're like sending out an email about bragging about how many you sold. That to me seems like somebody who should be prepared to get those out.
Yeah, I mean, the answer to the question is that even if you had all the money in the world, you might not be able to just snap your fingers and get as many of a certain chip or component as you need, because that's how the world is apparently now. So fine. But you're right that if you see that the expected ship date is whatever, December 10th, and you place an order, then you reasonably should expect that they're going to ship on December 10th. And if you find out, well, that's only when the first order ships, and other orders you might not get it till February, or, I mean, I don't want to, I'm sure they're not going to say, but I'd be real curious to know how many are in this first batch. Is it 500? Is it 1,000? Yeah. Is it 250? Because to fill 4,000 orders, the size of the batches mean there could be people in February. Well, I think February is completely realistic, especially with Chinese New Year. And maybe if it could be February, could it be March? And if you ordered in November, that's annoying. They're going to lose a lot of those orders.
Yeah, it's very possible. I would agree with that. It is very possible. So we'll have to see how they end up with that. Hopefully they can get that taken care of and they're not so crippled, you know, but it sounds like from the way they're doing their messaging and what we know about the situation that I think some people who have not already got that shipping notification are going to be in trouble. They're waiting on these for a little while. So
yeah, I'm bugging my Walksnail has said they'll send me one for review. Thank you. And I'm bugging my rep because I currently don't have tracking. She was like, oh, it'll ship this week. I was like, because, you know, like I said earlier, I see people starting to put content in them. Like, I want to make content. I want to try it out. Alrighty, well, there you go. That could have been our rant. People love when we rant. But missed opportunity there. But not a big rant.
Mild rant. That's
a mild rant.
A spice meter for the rant.
Right. That was like a jalapeno level rant.
Yes. That was like 500 scobles.
Right. 500? Yeah. That's not a lot of scobles.
Not much. That's what I mean. Yeah, very low scobles.
Yeah. Okay. Well, next up, we're going to have one of those situations where I said something and then other people said I was wrong and they were right. And, you know, I love that. What was I wrong about, Blunty?
All right. Well, today we're going to talk about the Flysky gimbals. I believe you put out a video about the NV18. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that the new radio?
The EL18 now.
EL18, that's right. In that matter and all those kind of things. So we kind of want to lay everything out for you here. So
there's a lot of text here. Can we boil this down?
100%. So Risto from the EdgeTX Discord gave us this batch of info. But to boil it down, essentially, they're not 100 hertz limit. They are basically limited by a chip inside of them that ends up polling. The sensors end up polling at less than 500 hertz. So you don't get 500 hertz if you set it to 500 hertz. Also, no matter what you set it to, it does not sync to the packet rate. So what happens is you start to get basically off step, right? So you start to miss beats. So this will be 10 milliseconds ahead, and this will be 20 milliseconds ahead.
Hold on. Yeah. Pause for a second. So what you're saying is that with normal EdgeTX on like a Radio Master radio, for example, or a jumper radio, the polling rate of the gimbals is synced with the packet rate. So if I'm running Express LRS at 150 hertz, there are 150 packets coming out of the receiver per second, and we're reading the gimbal once for every one of those packets. So they're essentially, you get one piece of fresh data for every piece that you want to send out. Everything is synced
sampling. Yeah, you're sampling on time. You're getting the most relevant recent data, and you're getting that to the relevant recent packet and getting it right out the radio.
Okay, but the Flysky gimbals are polling at, are they 100 hertz out of the box?
I don't believe so.
No.
It seems like no matter what, they're 530 to 550 hertz, somewhere in there.
Oh, so I was just straight wrong.
But the problem is, like, because of that, it's like totally kind of, it ends up being weird where they land. So if you check out the rest of that post, the imager has a couple different things in the album. And Risto goes through and explains kind of how this ends up looking. So this is what happens each, basically where you set it each time, and then the timing of each packet, essentially. So the CZ is like the interval between the packets of the sticks.
Okay.
So that's when the sticks are sampled, and the dots are when the
packets. This is the Flysky
sampled.
polling interval.
Correct. And you can see how none of the dots actually end up lining up forever, right?
Okay.
So even the 500 hertz, it's because it's 520-ish, 540-ish, it starts to get off kilter, basically. It gets in front of or behind.
Black Jungle points out in the Discord, this is potentially going to result, well, I don't know about aliasing, but I guess technically it's aliasing. It's going to end up with a situation where sometimes you might get a duplicated packet, or you might have a late packet.
Yeah, or you're sampling in a different spot on the gimbal than you might, or some stuff like that. So if you scroll down, he also has many other ways to look at it. So if anybody likes the data, you can start to see like how the latency's out of sync. And then I like the next one. I think that's pretty clear. It starts to show you how out of sync each set gets, basically, like when they land. Okay,
so practically speaking,
yes. So
what does this mean for users of the gimbals?
So real quick, can we open back up that first post by Risto?
Sure.
Let's read that one more time. So at the bottom of Risto's post here, he says, overall, the sampling rate and asynchronicity issue with Flysky digital Hall gimbals is, in my opinion, overproportionally made into a problem. A big majority of RC pilots will not notice any difference. I'm a big fan of these digital gimbals, especially in these radios, that sort of thing, because the metal's great for gimbal components. It's top notch. Basically, he points out that with an updated gimbal firmware, if they just update the gimbal firmware for the chips that are on the gimbals, and then they work with HDX and get an API call, they'll be just even better, because then they'll also be in sync. That's kind of what he points out. So
Gotcha.
Most people will never notice it. It's probably never a problem. It causes a little bit of jitter on the Betaflight side, and then there's who knows, maybe there should be a preset for it that looks for the offset or something. But basically, you'll probably never notice it. It'll probably never cause a control difference. It probably won't be a problem at all. But it is technically different and a problem from the technical side of things. So it'd be cool if they did an update for the gimbals.
Okay, so what I said in the video was that the gimbals only pull at 100 hertz. And that means that if you're running ExpressLRS, etc., at higher rates, then you're not going to get the latency advantages, basically, because if you can't pull the gimbal fast enough to get new data, then the lower latency doesn't matter. And that is not true, because the gimbals are actually running at around 500 hertz.
Well, actually, what you end up getting, I think, is variable latency, because it's a progressively longer latency and then jumps back, and then progressively longer latency and jumps back, because you're pulling at a different spot when it hits the thing. That would be my thought process, but I'd have to think about that more, because if it's doing it every 530, right, then you're actually getting newer data, so it's not as long as it looks. Right. Yeah. So it's kind of yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, I appreciate that, Risto. Thank you for setting that straight. Glad we could make this correction.
TLDR, not a big deal. We just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This might turn out to be more relevant than it seems, because it is possible for the hardware in the EL18 radio frames. Well, what happened?
You totally dropped out for me. So I think you just lost the internet for a second.
Back, son. It's doing it again. It's going in and out. 1 second, guys. Hold tight.
Let's get through the hiccup.
I don't know what just happened. My internet just hiccuped.
Nothing started, right?
It's back. No, the stream is still live. We're still live. Don't say that thing you were about to say.
Okay.
It looks stable at the moment. Let's keep going.
All right.
So it would be super exciting to see ExpressLRS in the EL18 with the built-in. I think I'd love that. Make the radio a lot more appealing to me.
Absolutely. I do like that form factor. I've tried it, and I think that form factor is pretty cool.
It's cool. I'm not sure I want it, but it is cool.
I've often said, like, I wish I could design my own radio because my hands don't fit on a, like, even the big radios, they just don't go where they, like, none of the fit makes sense. It should be more like hand based instead of a big box. You know what I mean? And
I mean, that's what that radio did.
100%.
Try to design a radio around the human hand instead of a box, and then do your best.
Yeah, it feels like there could be a perfect way to hold your hands, and then it'd just be comfortable and it'd feel normal.
Yeah,
you know, that's sort of what that goes for. So.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, I look forward to the day. I think the day's coming when we will announce on the news that ExpressLRS can run on the internal module on the EL18, and I'll be excited to announce that because I think that radio got a lot more love in the comments than I anticipated. Not that I didn't think it would, like, I had anything against it, but there were so many people who said they still are flying their original NV14. They just love the freaking radio. So, big passionate following there. Continuing. Metaverse, Airspeeder, crypto, NFTs.
Yeah, it's that time. We're going to talk again. And surprisingly, today, it's not a DRL story so far. Basically, all these stories have been DRL stories. But we've got somebody else who's also big in the racing scene that we've started to talk about. Airspeeder has gotten into bed with a company called Saltwater Games.
Okay.
Saltwater Games has a metaverse called Celeros.
I'm sorry. I didn't understand that. This is how it must feel when I explain FPV to people. Saltwater Games has a metaverse called Celeros.
Yeah, you might think of Metaverse as a company.
Metaverse is Facebook. Facebook is Meta.
Yeah, so Metaverse is just a term that people are using now for a virtual world in which there can be exchange of goods and services and people can hang around and be in. Like Fortnite is almost a metaverse at this point.
Is Second Life a metaverse?
I would think so. Though I think they're trying to lean towards VR only as metaverse, but it's not super clear if that'll be like, if it'll all be, you know, like mixed desktop and other. Anyway, the idea of metaverse is sort of like a Second Life place. Yes, that's the idea.
Is VR chat a metaverse?
Yes, 100%. I don't know. People might say differently, but VR chat is 100% a metaverse.
I have a follow-up to that.
Did what Facebook did beforehand.
I have a follow-up to that question. Can you explain to me what VR chat is? No, stop. I know that. So there's a metaverse where you can put on your VR goggles, and then you can go into this metaverse, and you can Celeros.
The metaverse is called Celeros.
Oh,
so that's the world you're going to. But what you can do is fly Airspeeders.
Well, why didn't you start with that?
So,
because I interrupted you.
So basically, they're I guess they're calling it mixed reality, but basically, so inside the metaverse, they want to make it like have basically an area for sports, and in that sports area, you have AirspeederXR. AirspeederXR is their partnership with Airspeeder, and that means that this will be your virtual place to fly airspeeders in competition. And surprisingly, this sounds a lot like because this is called play to impact is what the term they're using. So play to impact is what they're calling play to earn. Basically, play to earn means if you play the game, you can earn things in the game without paying money, right? That's the idea behind play to earn. It also means if you put money in, you can play and get more money out, essentially. Those are the ideas. So this is play to impact, which is their advanced version of this, which is, I think, trying to lean harder into this idea. But yeah, essentially, this seems like it's going to be a launched.
Go ahead.
Okay. Seems like this is going to be a launch thing. It's in beta right now. It's not public until 2023. But essentially, it seems like this is going to be a drone racing game in which you can start off by playing for free, similar to DRL's version of this on a phone. And then once you get into it a certain amount, you can start to put money in to bet to earn money. One of their slogans that they use for this is to win without risk is to triumph without glory. So yeah, I think that sounds like you need to bet on this or you're a bitch, right? That's what I take from that verbiage.
So I like the idea. I like the idea that I can I can fly an Airspeeder in VR. That sounds fun. And I am in general a fan of Airspeeder. I can't help but feel that somewhere in this is a desire to pump and dump a shitcoin.
Well,
I'm just looking for the angle.
A lot of this metaverse stuff is typically blockchain. However, I have not found the term blockchain yet.
Oh, if they were blockchain, they'd be saying that all the investors, they cream for blockchain. So there must not be any, there's no crypto involved? There's no NFTs?
It's not clear. My impression from the articles I was reading about it were that's where it was going, and that's the impression people were getting. But I think currently, I don't think they have any direct link to that. So.
Oh, well. All right, so are we just being haters then? I mean, it's just a VR Airspeeder game. That's good.
Sure, in the metaverse. Again, that to me that slogan says it all. To win without risk is to triumph without glory.
Right. If there's betting, betting, surely they're doing betting with crypto. Surely they're not doing cash betting.
Maybe they mean all virtual, but I'm expecting this to roll out with some form of virtual currency. So.
Oh, wait. What's Byron Lewis found? Leveraging digital ownership and the technologies powering Web3 and the Metaverse. He found it. Oh,
Web3. There's a lot of Web3. So is Web3 the new way to sneak in the fact that you're talking about a blockchain? Is that what we're talking about?
I don't know. I mean, Web3. Okay. I first heard about Web3 when crypto douchebags were trying to convince me that it was better to commoditize everything, and Web3 was their way of saying we're going to commoditize everything.
I still am confused because I remember Web 2, and Web 2 was just when everything looked fancy and changed UI design and user design and it wasn't like, hey, let's move everything to crypto.
I think Web 3 is a marketing term for blockchain shit, as Brian Lewis says. Anyway, cool. Right. So that's two FPV related companies, drone related companies. Well, I guess three if you count Red Cat. Although Red Cat kind of dropped the whole blockchain thing, so I don't think they count anymore. So we've got DRL and Algorand. And
also dropped their stock. Sorry.
Ooh, heyo.
It's pretty rough right
now. Yeah. Alrighty. Good deal. Next. Can we go to the next story? My eyes almost rolled out of my head there for a minute.
Sure, let's do it. Okay. Next up, GoPro Labs has some cool shit you might not know about, including some stuff they've recently added. It's extensions for GoPro Labs, and if you didn't know about it, we've talked a little bit about these before in the fact of like changing bitrate. But
yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, what's GoPro Labs?
GoPro Labs is basically a new firmware you can flash that's a sort of a beta test fancy feature firmware to your GoPro. Most GoPros can get it. Almost all GoPros have some form of Labs firmware, and that Labs firmware essentially lets you do a bunch of tweaks and hacks and fancy stuff. You get extra features and changes, and basically kind of unlocks the GoPro in a lot of cases.
It is official too. It's not like it's from GoPro. And
Correct.
Basically a bunch of high-end features that not everybody would want, but nerds like us want. So you just flash this firmware and boom, your GoPro super extra power features. So what have they added?
Yeah. So a bunch of new stuff. This page kind of summarizes all these extensions. I wanted to find somewhere that showed you kind of all of them. So these are all the different things you can do with your GoPro. And a lot of these are also metadata information. So basically, if you go on to their metadata page, which is linked at the top here, and then you drop in your file from the GoPro, you can see all the settings that were active at that time in case you forgot like what you set, right? All that will basically be dumped out for you as information. But you can also go through and just set a bunch of different things, and you can do these with QR codes typically. So you write them in a form of a QR code, and then you activate them, and essentially it'll just change different things, right? So you can get it to show you levels and change labs messages and all kinds of things. But if you scroll down, all the way down, almost basically to the bottom, you'll see here are 11. Yeah, there's a bunch of cool ones in here for sure.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. Oh,
basically
spirit
all the
level
way
to
at the
the
bottom
real
there's
LCD. That's I don't even know about half of these. Okay, all
Yeah,
the way
there's
to the
a-
bottom.
Yeah, okay, right, just up a little bit, right there. So we got a few new features here we wanted to point out, and a user sent these into us. So IWFR is increased write frequency to support higher precision file recoveries. If you've ever had a big crash and ejects the battery, you may notice file recovery missed 5 to 15 seconds. This hack increases the rate video is flushed to the SD card. With this enabled, battery injects will not lose more than 1 to 2 seconds of footage. So that's pretty crazy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't seen anything like. I mean, that could be huge for people who are like, I missed the end and I don't know where I crashed, and, or whatever happened, right? And you want to get that footage, Hopefully you won't lose anything at the end of that flight. Also, you can now store LRV files as Adobe Premiere Pro proxy files. So that's just automatic in the camera now. You can set that setting.
That's nice. That's nice because, like, Mike, if you don't have like a top end computer and you're recording your GoPro at 4K or 5.6K or whatever the max is, those proxy files can make they're basically just low resolution proxies that makes image editing or video editing a lot smoother. But it takes for freaking ever to render the proxy files, and GoPros have always made a low resolution proxy. That LRV file that's right next to your actual files, that's what the GoPro app uses when you're doing real-time playback, because they can't download the whole file in real time over Wi-Fi. So they've just changed this now so those LRV files are actual Adobe proxies, basically, and then you got the proxies ready to go. That's pretty slick.
Pretty cool stuff. And they even formatted them correctly with the names, with the proxy in the name now, and they put them in a folder for you. So it's like literally ready to go for Adobe, which is pretty neat.
Brilliant.
And the last one, many people will like, is Trust USB Power. So if there's any USB sources that have issues, and they, we've talked this before, where basically the old iFlight cable does not identify that it can actually do the right amount of power. The new iFlight balance cable can do that, but the old one did not have the little resistors in there or whatever it is to indicate that it could do the correct amperage. So now you can flip this TUSB equals 1 on, and with the new firmware, you can now use those old iFlight cables or anything else that doesn't prove that it can send you the right power.
Nice. Very nice. For anybody who's having that bug, the fix is to flash the GoPro Labs firmware and use this option, or to get a new balance plug. But why would you?
Previously it was to roll back to a firmware that didn't look for this, and now you can flash to the new Labs firmware and use this feature. So
the problem was never people would reach out to me and they'd say, hey, I've got this power cable and my GoPro says it can't provide enough power. What should I do? And I'm like, it can provide enough power. It's just that it isn't telling the GoPro that it can provide enough power, and it's assuming that the GoPro is dumb enough to not care. And the GoPro finally got smart enough to care.
Yeah, which was the case until they finally decided to add that protection in. So I just want to say shout out to GoPro. These are great changes, and there's a ton of features here that they never had to add for anybody, that they've added for tons of users. And like, if you have not gone through these, you should. I mean, you can change all kinds of individual things, exact bit rates,
200 megabits per second.
Settings, encoding settings. You can do exact frame rates. You can change auto exposure damping settings. Like, there's very granular settings you can change. If you've never gone in and looked. So pretty cool stuff.
Very nice. Very nice. Should do a video about GoPro Labs. I haven't actually played with it very much.
Yeah, they even have tone mapping. So like in-camera contrast control settings, you can change like which settings they use for how they use it and stuff. Like, very, very cool stuff. So
awesome. All right. Next up, finally, we have some DJI news. I was getting itchy there, Blunty, for a minute. Oh man, got any of that DJI?
So this is actually a fun DJI one for anybody who's on the system. They're going to be pretty excited about this little thing, I think. Excited is relative. Depends on how nerdy you are, I would say. So
my audience, no.
That's true. There's a new tool out. And this is going to be in French, but you can translate this and you can kind of dig your way around. Thanks to Rabbit Ambulance for sharing this. That's the only place I saw this was from them. And basically, this is a way to convert to move around the actual DJI OSD elements and change them and to configure them separately. So not like the other OSD elements from Betaflight, but
Right.
the actual DJI OSD elements.
So like in this example, notice that he has moved the megabit per second to the center of the screen, the milliseconds to the center of the screen. Here's the goggle battery. He's moved that. You can literally move the DJI OSD elements. It took me a second, Blunty. You had to explain this to me for like 5 minutes before it clicked what was actually happening here. Because I was like, you can already move the OSD elements. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Also looks like he's using a custom font here.
Yes, I believe you can do that as well because it's like an XML file. I think it makes from a Python script. I am, trying to translate this from. I have not done this, but I know other people have worked on this, I believe. And then obviously, he built the guide for it, but it's in French, so I have not dug totally into it. But yeah, basically the idea is that with all these little things and tweaks in this code that he has, you can move your stuff around the actual DJI OSD. So
non-trivial and highly manual, but
yes.
If you are enough of a nerd to try to do it and feel like you're up to it, you can do it. And the instructions are right there in the show notes.
Pretty cool stuff. Only V2 goggles, I believe. So you cannot do the goggles 2 because those are not as open. So
yeah. Okay. Very cool. So cool what people have done after the goggles got rooted and cracked open. Such cool stuff. Okay. We got one more piece of news that is personal to you and in some ways me, but mostly you. There are two new community-based organizations in the world as of recently. The old one that everybody knows about is the AMA, which totally represents the exact interests of FPV pilots everywhere, as long as they want to fly at a fixed site flying field.
Yeah, unfortunately, we saw AMA CBO guidelines come out and they were pretty restrictive. AMA seems like they basically threw the kitchen sink at the restrictions and made it so they could get through immediately, which was what happened. We did not do that. So the FPV Freedom Coalition is who I represent. If anybody is not aware of that, I'm one of the 5 members of the FPV Freedom Coalition. I'm the VP of Government Affairs. So one thing we did is, work closely with the FAA to try to get this done. We did a lot of back and forth through us and the flight test as well. Flight test worked with us pretty heavily on this. We work together a lot. We do weekly meetings and stuff to make sure we're representing each side of the hobby as well as we can. And we finally got our community-based organization approval. Both of us did on the same day, on the same morning. It got announced. So that's pretty cool stuff. It looks like as soon as we can, we will be approving FRIAs. We're trying to get those submitted and figure out the exact process. Seems like the FAA is probably a little behind on that. But basically, we'll be able to get you those FAA identified, recognized areas so you can fly without your remote ID. And hopefully we can get those in a lot of places, so it's not a problem.
Yeah. Worth pointing out for anybody who's like, I want a FRIA right now, that isn't relevant until September 2023. So we have a little bit of time to figure it out. But on September 2023, it will be the law of the land that you will need to have a remote ID transponder on your drone. And if you're flying at a FRIA, then you don't need that. And so, of course, the AMA's answer to that was, we'll just come fly at one of our flying fields. And people are like, well, what if I want to fly at my house? What if I want to fly at my school? And the answer is to get that designated as a FRIA. But only a CBO can do that. And that's why this is such a big deal.
That's correct. Also, one of the other big things is the AMA has a lot of restrictions on their, regulations because they applied basically everything that was asked of them. They have restrictions like lights and statute miles for night flights. And, they even put in their guidelines, they recommend that you don't fly over a 4S battery at racing events, I believe is how they put it. So, there's just a lot of arbitrary restrictions in those guidelines.
Yeah. So you and the Flight Test Community Association submitted your safety regulations, which are linked in the show notes, and they were structured around the things that FPV pilots actually do in a way that
Yes.
the AMA's safety guidelines are not. And there was a
Yes.
little bit of a holdup where there was some, maybe they were not going to let you through, but they did in the end.
It seemed like they were going to do, I would say, nitpicking. A lot of nitpicking through like how we had written things and what the advisory circular they had sent out had said and what they recommended the guidelines would be. But it seems like after a little bit of back and forth and some understandings and stuff, basically, yeah, we got pushed through and they understood that we, we're covering what we need to for our people. So pretty cool.
Well, I just did an interview yesterday. I think it was yesterday, Monday. That was yesterday, with Dave Messina from the FPV Freedom Coalition. Blunty, of course, you know him, and Josh Bixler from the Flight Test Community Association, talking about this in more depth. That is being edited and will be out soon on my channel, so everybody look forward to that. But the short version is that for those who want to fly legally, there is now potential for an organization that actually is sort of closer to the world of FPV flight to basically, you could turn your backyard into a FRIA and fly legally there, with some stipulations, but it opens the door in a way that it wasn't open before.
That's correct. Yeah, as long as the FAA plays ball, there's a couple things we don't know, like exactly what there's wording like there's a distance restrictions, right, for the way the FRIAs are set up. We don't know exactly what those distances are because they weren't defined. We don't know exactly what their guidelines will be. If this one only allows fixed wing and this one only allows whatever, will that be a reason for other ones to be there? We don't know how much discretion those people will have approving FRIAs, so I just want to make sure that's all clear. Hopefully, we won't have any issues, and hopefully we'll sail through.
Yes, sorry to interrupt you, Blunty.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Go ahead.
The thing is, if the AMA was the only CBO, community-based organization, which there was a time when I feared that would turn out to be the case, and I think the AMA would have been fine with that, then I just think there's zero chance that they would have gone out of their way to approve or to submit any FRIAs except for their fixed site flying fields. They would have been like, fly in your backyard. That's not safe. So the fact that the FPV Freedom Coalition and the Flight Test Community Association are now CBOs, and Dave said there were like 5 more in the works. So there's going to be more. But we
only know that I believe FTCA was 7th, I believe so. We just know by extrapolation that there were at least that many applications.
Yeah, it's great and this goes past just the FRIAs too, because the FAA's own rules say that they have to develop guidelines with input from the CBOs. And so going forward, you guys, you already have a seat at the table. Dave probably spends more time in FAA meetings than anyone in FPV. But
yes,
this is really good.
Yeah. It is really good. Hopefully, hopefully they'll see us as consulting like people and like actually look to us for involvement and input. I'm a little worried it won't be the case, but we will see how that moves forward. But definitely what we can tell you is that obviously we work to make sure we made these rules as non-restrictive as possible and representing FPV as possible. And moving forward, we want to continue to do that. There was some worry that we were going to have to add in, like I said, the 3 statute miles and, different colored lights and angles and line of sight restrictions and all these things, right, that we wouldn't have wanted to include in our guidelines. And one thing, as much as we hate the FAA, one thing I can say, everybody loves to hate on the FAA whenever we make posts about it. But one thing we can say positively is that they got this through and they did not continue to force us to add these what should be guidelines, should be suggestions, and they were suggestions, and they didn't make us add them. So I think that's a positive step forward, and we should see it as good that we're not like, basically those end up being ad hoc rules because, as you pointed out, the CBOs are the rule. The law, the 44809 states that you have to follow the rules of the CBO. You just have to pick one, and those become enforceable rule. So I think the concern is definitely that if you have those enforced so that they're all the same rules and they're very restrictive, then it would suck because that's the only rules you could follow. And we were able to provide at least some kind of less restrictive rule base. So
I suspect that Dave Messina, and not to take anything away from anybody else who worked on this, but I suspect that in many ways, Dave Messina is, the hero we didn't know we had. I know he works tirelessly. I've heard stories about him calling phones and knocking on doors and just getting stuff done. And I think a lot of people probably don't even know who he is. But FPV Freedom Coalition certainly deserves a lot of credit for things being, let's just say, not as bad as they could have been. But hey,
yeah,
that's where we are.
I'll just say, Dave does a ton of work. And one thing as well, I'll just point out, is like part of the reason we got to where we were on this is because he came to us as a team and was like, hey, let's look at these restrictions and talk about why we're submitting them. And like we do meetings every week where we discuss like, why are we doing this, and like who are we sending this to, and how should we format these, and how far should we go. And like it was our team's decisions to make sure that we pulled back and got basically almost no additional restrictions when we sent it the second time, and that's what made it through. So yeah, it's just important that we're all there representing the hobby, and we can all make sure that we get the best result for people. So
all right. There's links to the FPV Freedom Coalition. There aren't. FPVFC.org is FPV Freedom Coalition, and we should also
I've
plug
got that
the
link
Flight
in the show notes.
Test Community Association, FTCA, Flight Test Community Association, and the FPV Freedom Coalition.
Like
the two organizations we're talking about definitely deserve your support in whatever way you choose to do it. But
if you did want to use our safety guidelines, you can you just click on safety and then guidelines on our page there, and you can get right to them. So you can pull those up if anybody asks you what you're flying under.
Mm-hmm. We got a super chat here I'll take real quick from Squirrely. Thank you for $2 super chat, Squirrely. How do you put remote ID on a toothpick? Squirrely, for recreational flights, under 250 grams is not required to do remote ID. The big question comes if you're doing a 107 flight, and many 107 flights are done on sub 250 quads, with little action cameras like the Insta360 Go, or if you're just a YouTube creator doing a review of a tiny whoop outdoors. If you're indoors, you're off the hook. I don't think there is a feasible way to put remote ID on a sub 250 gram quad for 107 operation.
I'm going to tell you, I think this is a tangled web we weave. This is going to be a real mess, because as we've discussed a little bit, there are manufacturing restrictions, and then there are user restrictions. Mm-hmm. So it is my opinion, not the FPVFC's opinion. I just want to make that clear. It is my opinion. We have not made a group decision on this. That the way the law is written, if you receive a drone that is completed, you can fly that for 107 by putting a module on it and using it as you would expect. Like, it's not there because you didn't manufacture it. It's not your responsibility to get the drone as standard remote ID.
But you can't put a module on a tiny whoop. It's too small, is my point.
I believe there's going to be a bunch of tiny modules that are very cheap. I can guarantee you.
So? You think so?
100%. I'm under like 4 NDAs right now. There are a ton of companies who are trying to make you the cheapest, smallest module possible with the easiest compatibility with your drone. 100%. Everybody thinks that they're going to do it. There's also multiple open source projects I've heard of. I think we're going to see an explosion of this happen about 3 to 6 months before the module requirements come in. So I think like March through like May, June, July, we're going to start to see like surges of remote ID modules, and they're all going to be super cheap. And that's my guess. I've heard a lot of rumblings. Exciting. So I think basically as small as you can possibly get it. So we're talking about GPS chip, processor, Bluetooth broadcast. Like, that's about all you're going to need. And that's about the weight and size it'll be, because everybody is going to work to get it as small as possible, because nobody wants to fly anything that's heavy or annoying. So
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a question from L. Leston that I think deserves addressing, and he asks, does this mean I have to pay to be a member of these CBOs? And the answer to that is no. Obviously, if you want to support the work that FPVFC, FTCA, and others are doing, they certainly appreciate and benefit from your donations. But all you do is you say, I am flying under these safety rules, and then theoretically you also fly under those safety rules, and then you're compliant. You don't have
Basically,
to pay anybody anything.
just like how you would be judged when you fly for not having your trust, because the trust is one of the rules in 44809. You'd just in the same way be judged against the rules that are in our CBO rules as soon as you say that's who you're flying under. And the way it's supposed to work is essentially you'll be given the chance to designate who you're using, and then those will be the rules applied against you as you move forward in the system if somebody were to get you in trouble.
Okay. Alrighty. That's great. Let's move on to it. Oh, what have I done? I've screwed up the titles. Hang on.
Oh no.
There we go. It's Barely News, a series of short stories that were almost not newsworthy, but we thought you'd like to hear about anyway. We don't have a whole lot to say about them.
That's true. We don't have a whole lot to say about them. First up, we want to let you know that if you've got a Jumper T12, you can use the same gimbals that are in the T12 and T12, or you can use the same gimbals that are for the AGO ones that are for the TX12
Zorro.
And the Zorro.
Oh,
yeah, the minis.
And the Zorro. Okay.
Yeah, so those minis you can now use with the T12. So we want to let you know those fit in there. So yeah.
Oh, better gimbals for the Jumper. They just drop in? Just a straight drop in?
I believe they just drop in. Yeah, I don't think there's any print for these.
Brilliant. Nice. Yeah, no, looks like they just drop in. Those are definitely very, very nice gimbals. And probably better than the stock gimbals on the Jumper T12, although they're not terrible.
They're certainly better, but yeah, I don't know how much better. Yeah.
Okay. That's good to know. Thanks to, who was it that pointed that out? Whose channel was that? Thanks to 3D printed drones for figuring this out and making us aware of it. Oh, yeah. Mark Rober. I'd like to hear about him.
Yeah, next up we've got a story from Mark Rober. Mark Rober has done his new Glitterbomb, his final Glitterbomb video, 5.0. I got to say, I think this was probably the worst video he's made so far, the Glitterbomb series. Maybe people are catching on. But one thing that's special about this one, why we're showing you this one, is
there's drones behind him.
It uses drones in the Glitterbomb. So in addition to the other changes he's made, people might not know, but basically he puts fake packages out on the porches and in cars and attempts to get people to take these packages illegally. And then when they take the packages, they find out it's a glitter bomb and a stink spray, and basically ruins their house and gets some glitter everywhere and gets the scammers. Which is all
fair game because they're thieves.
That's true, yeah. But one of the things this one does is it has drones, and the drones carry the glitter, and then they fly off and they just lay glitter all over your house. So yeah.
Should we spoil the video by just showing it happening?
Maybe, I don't know. I don't think he'll strike us, but
I don't think Mark Rober would strike us. Oh, I don't know where in there. We don't have a timestamp to when the magic happens. People can go watch it.
Yeah, we just wanted to let you know that was happening. So
yeah, okay. All right. Well, Mark Rober's worst Glitterbomb video ever still got 14 million views in 4 days. So
it's always going to get the views. It's always going to.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Next up.
The Army Rangers has announced they are using Skydio quadcopters in the field.
But not regular old Skydios that you could buy.
That's correct. Yeah, they have a Skydio RQ28A, which is their version of a fighting drone, but it might look familiar because it kind of looks like a carbon quadcopter.
It does. We only got this one picture, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. There's a couple others around the internet, but there's not many good ones.
Well, it's top secret.
Yeah. But this is basically their first one they've ever announced, like, officially using. So they're going to be training with it now in their training stuff and trying to use it in the field to do tasks and stuff. So it's pretty cool. I think this is the first we've seen of it officially used, at least for the Army Rangers. This is their first one. So they're looking for about 500 of these. With 1,000 by the end of March 2025. So, pretty good for Skydio and pretty interesting for the military.
Yeah, the military, definitely people are looking for alternatives to DJI drones because they're being told they're not allowed to use them in the DoD and in the federal government specifically. and they definitely were using them. They're super useful, and people were just using them all over the place. And now there's a big opportunity for non-China based drone manufacturers like Skydio. I'm sure Red Cat and Teal are hoping to pick up some of this action, but I guess they didn't make this one.
Well, I think they're still in line for the tranche. It's literally just Teal and Skydio, as far as I know, in tranche 2. So I think they're both giving like stuff to military to test right now.
Interesting.
Timberline in the chat points out, and also the article points out, it's very similar to Skydio's X2D consumer drone, with just looks like some tweaks for the military.
Yeah, the military tweaks are that it costs 4 times as much. That's it. No, yeah. I'm joking. Well, that's pretty interesting. It sure seems like this should be good. Like for the DJI ban for the federal government, not a general DJI ban, but for the federal government and the military specifically, should be good for Teal and Skydio.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Why is Red Cat's stock so bad right now?
I mean, they sold off their revenue. So unless Teal starts selling some drones, I think they're not making any money. That would be my guess. I don't know that much about what's actually going on. But from the outside view, the people who were taking any on the books revenue are gone. So,
right, because they sold off Fat Shark and Rotor Riot. I guess Liftoff makes some revenue. Shouldn't write that.
Yeah, but I bet it's like pennies compared to Rotor Riot. Rotor Riot was like six mil a year or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's money. When you've got 50, 60 million sitting there like an investment and you're trying to show something, I think showing that 6 mil revenue and then the couple mil revenue from Fat Truck or whatever they were showing is like 8 mil versus 0, right? Like 8 mil versus half a mil or whatever on the books was. I don't even know if they've done a revenue report since then, but
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that would be my fear about it is if Teal doesn't sell the drones, they've just dumped money into something that's nothing, So.
But they have to. I mean, who else is a drone manufacturer?
Well, Skydio won the tranche 1, so it's possible that Skydio will just continue to win only tranche 2, and then it'll be done, right?
But I mean, they're not going to.
Skydio could get all the contracts. So I think part of what Teal is trying to do is position themselves so they can make so many and make it so easily that they can pitch to them that like, hey, you don't have to wait till 2025 to get 1,000. We can give you 1,000 in 6 months. That seems to be their play. But right now, I don't know that that's the case. So,
man,
there is a blue SUAS list that shows you who is on it and cleared. So right now, that is Harris Aerial, Easy Aerial, Inspired Flight, Blue Halo, Wing Truck, Free Fly Systems, Ascent Aero Systems, and Sense Fly by Ag Eagle. So those are all the names you've never heard of that are also making
Free Fly.
I've
heard they make the Alta. Daniel Riley works there. That's the
Alta X is the one that got added to the Blue SUS. So.
Oh man, the Alta's a blast. I got to fly an Alta. We did a Rotor Ride episode out there. That's a
Alta's
blast.
how I got into drones because they were carrying gates under the Alta. That was the first video I ever saw.
Oh, nice! That's the video I'm talking about. We put gates under the Alta, and we power looped the Alta. It's nothing like power looping a $15,000 36-inch prop. Yeah. Whatever.
That was I was watching other stuff, and then I got into. Is it RC Test Flight who does the Alta, or is it?
It's Daniel Riley, RC Test Flight. He works there.
Yeah. So I was watching other RC Test Flight stuff, and it wove me into that video, and that's how I got into FPV.
You're saying that the RC Test Flight Rotor Riot collab was how you got into drones. We wouldn't be here right now. That's amazing.
YouTube pitched me that collab because I was watching RC Test Flight stuff.
That's amazing. The connections in the world. You didn't think we were going to finish this whole broadcast without doing a meme, did you? Thank you, Black Jungle, for the memes. All right. Well, we got a couple more.
Funny and accurate.
Yeah. CosmoStreamer. What is CosmoStreamer, Blunty?
CosmoStreamer is a way online, or basically a program that you can download and use from this website, CosmoStreamer.com, that lets you use a bunch of different programs or a bunch of different hardware and stream it. And one of the things you can do is use the DJI goggles with a free app. And now they've added support for the goggles too. So if you've got the goggles too, you can now use CosmoStreamer with the goggles too. So we wanted to let you know about that.
So this is a way of getting basically video out of the goggles too, other than the DJI Fly app, which has some drawbacks.
And I think the other way you can do it is with the DJI RC Pro.
That's what I'm being told. The DJI RC Pro controller can connect to the goggles too. The DJI Smart controller can connect to the V2 goggles. Couldn't make it be the same one. No. But CosmoStreamer can do them both. And if CosmoStreamer can do it, does that mean we can expect that like FPV Out, Wide FPV, DigiView, all those other apps that use that interface will be getting it too?
I'd assume so, but yeah, I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, my guess would be, since there is an avenue, we would probably see the other apps get the same thing. So
okay. Yeah, this is video out, not video in. It's basically a way you can stream the feed from your goggles to an external display or to the internet. Great.
All right.
We got
Next
a
up,
monocopter.
Yeah, we got a monocopter. So we were sent this by a few different people. This guy has built a 3D printed monocopter. So if you want a cool project to do, I think this is definitely on the list, though I don't think he's published the code for his flight controller.
It has it's a wing.
That's correct.
With one propeller offset. Does he know that airplanes exist? If you just move that motor over here to the center, you'll have an airplane. And then, why did you do this, sir?
Well, yeah, so it's a one motor and a servo.
Okay.
And that servo controls a flap to keep it controllable in flight. I think he did it because it's cool. That would be my opinion.
It is. Okay. In the chat, he's about to fly it. What is it going to do when he lets go? What do you think it's going to do? Tell me in the chat. Oh, that's the most dangerous launch I've ever seen. And damn, look at, that's the perfect freeze frame. It's coming for your face. Get away from it. Oh, God. Oh, and now he's controlling it, right, Blunty? This is not just wildly flying to the sky.
That's correct. Yeah, he does have some control over it. That's kind of that's the idea behind it, is where he's got it set up with a flight controller so he can try to get it somewhat stable in flight. And in this video, he's testing, I think, 5-inch versus 6-inch props to see like how the angle of flight changes with the thrust and stuff. So.
Wow. Well, that's sketchy as hell. I'll never get tired. He's gonna lose his face. This is ridiculous. Why don't you launch it facing away from you, sir? Oh, God, this is not safe. You gotta. Oh, that's working better though. It looks more stable. You gotta figure out a better way to launch this. I want to. Is he gonna do it again? Oh man.
I think it's just these two, because he was testing two different prop types.
Oh, that looks way more stable, though.
Yeah, I think that's a 6-inch prop. It gives it a little more level flight.
Wow. Oh, that's a good point. Chris Thorney says, it's facing every direction. There is no away from you. That's a good point. You need a launch stand.
There's a distance away from you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think,
I don't think that doesn't feel... Listen.
Do you think you could throw it like a frisbee
exactly.
Yeah.
As soon as you throttle up and let go, it's immediately going to whip around and try and catch your hand. So, good luck. You got to chuck it. I'm sure he knows what he's doing. All right, that was worth it.
Yeah.
What's next?
All right. Next up, we've got the Black Knight Transformer.
Oh, I like the sound of that already.
Yeah. So the Black Knight Transformer is a rotorcraft and essentially like a Jeep in one. Definitely an odd concept, I think.
Is there video?
Yeah. There's not video of it actually in flight. It seems to be just mainly under test and development through pictures and stuff. But I thought this kind of looked ridiculous, so I wanted to share it.
Yeah, okay. It's a rotatable VTOL. I could see some uses for this. I could see some uses for this.
Yeah. I feel like, what is it going to do that a helicopter's not? I guess drive on the ground. But then how many times are you going to need to do that? And like, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
It can go small places where the small props, we always have this discussion whenever we talk about, air taxis and so forth. Like, why not just use a helicopter?
Yeah.
And there's all the you're usually the one who argues with me and says, well, they're mechanically simpler.
In this case, I think maybe that might not be true. Like if you're the military, you don't have a limit of money. So, and then I don't know. When I think about defense spending, I think like we don't care about price. And when I think about like air taxi and like costs, like when we talked about like drones versus helicopters, one thing we talked about was fuel costs. This is not going to be any better fuel cost. Or if it is, it's not going to be like, I don't know. Like, what are you gaining, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm sure they have a salesman who would like to tell you the answer to that question.
I guess we'll see if we see these on the battlefield.
We got one more, Blunty. We always like stories of people doing good, helpful, positive things in the world with drones. And this one is a two-year-old located in the woods by a drone.
Yeah. We like to let you know about these wholesome stories to end the show sometimes. And one of them was a missing toddler who they were able to locate through thermal cameras. So that's pretty fortunate that they were able to get them found.
That's the toddler right there?
Yeah, that's correct.
Well, you don't leave your toddler out in the snow, I think is the moral of this story.
Yeah, I think they went for a crawl / walkabout there, and
yeah, nice. Yeah, thermal, the perfect thing for finding a human in the winter, right?
Very true.
Very nice. Would have been a better story if they'd brought him a sausage, but I guess I can forgive it.
Yeah,
we like drones bringing sausages to stranded things. Alrighty. Well, Blunty, that is going to bring us to the end of the show. We're supposed to do our plugs in the middle of the show, but we have so much momentum, I just keep going till the end. Try to remember to do plugs on the half-hour mark so people don't just tune out and leave. Hey, hang on. I'm watching you. Right now. I don't want to see that number go down while we do our plugs, okay? All right, plugs.
First up, we've got FPVKnowItAll.com, which is your website where you can go for the FPV Know-It-All Ultimate FPV Shopping List, and you can find excellent collections of parts and drones and all kinds of different things and accessories for you if you're looking for them, so you know what to buy. And if you buy through there, you can help Mr. JB out through his affiliate links.
Oh, yeah. Love those. Also, ItsBlunty.com is your website. And people who want to get on the phone with a smart person you help people on the Discord server. You help people all the time for free, as do I. But if you want to get on the phone and monopolize my attention, that's going to cost you money. And that's why you can head to itsblunty.com and book a session with Blunty for $50, and he'll help you fix your drone. He'll jump on a Zoom meeting with you. We'll just get on the phone and, tell you everything's going to be all right. I don't know. Maybe you're not that guy, Blunty. But
I don't know if we'll go quite that far, but we'll definitely try to help you.
You would be like, no, actually, it is that bad, and here are 10 more reasons why.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's what you're paying me for, so I'm going to give it to you straight.
There you go. I also want to tell you that we have a Joshua Bardwell live stream clips channel. It's a separate YouTube channel run by Blunty. And he cuts out clips, highlights from my live streams. So if you don't get to watch every live stream and you just want the best parts, head on over and subscribe. We're just about to break 7,000 subscribers. We've been kind of hovering around 7K for a while. Love to see that get above 7K. So if you head on over there, get subscribed, and check out the content over there as
also
well.
About to hit 1 million views on the channel. Pretty cool.
That's amazing. 1 million views. Fantastic. And lastly, searchfpv.com. Searchfpv.com is a multi-store FPV product search engine. You can pick your region. You can pick the stores you like to shop from. Let me just select all right here. And then you could search for whatever you want. Like, what should we search for, Blunty?
Let's see. How about AG01 gimbals?
Okay. We're going to, we could choose in stock only, but I didn't do that. If we want to only find stores that have it in stock, it heads out there, it searches the stores, and it shows you what it's got. And you can just look through these search results. You can even save the search results with a link. And I don't know if he's rolled out. Yeah, you can even sort. You can sort based on the stock status. So, yeah, find out who's got them. So definitely use that site whenever you're shopping for stuff. That. Yeah. Hey! 7 of you left. Oh, I have no way of knowing who you were, though. Well, thank you for sticking around. That is going to bring us to the end of the FPV news. We're doing the news next week, right? Christmas isn't going to mess us up?
That's correct. Yeah. We'll see. Okay. For people who don't know, I'm moving across the country. So the week after we might be out, but we'll let you know.
Where are you now?
I'm in Denver, Colorado. I'm moving to South Alabama back to my family and cheaper prices. So
yeah, and better fishing. Is there good fishing in Denver?
Fishing. Yeah, and more room for drones and lots of things. So Denver fishing is stocked ponds, which I was not raised on, and I'm not a big fan of stocked ponds. It almost feels like cheating. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know.
If you just like if I know where the fish are and I know what to feed them and I know how everybody catches them and I put that thing on and I drop it in and I catch them, it's like, okay, that's how much sport in that.
Also knows a lot about fishing. If you want to go to ItsBlunty.com, sign up to talk to him about fishing.
I would talk to you about fishing. That's true.
Yeah. How many hours of gameplay do you have on Russian fishing simulator?
Do you really want to know the answer to that? Okay, hold on. I'll actually tell you. I'm currently at 772 hours.
That's less than I thought you were going to say, but it's still a big freaking number.
Well, I took like a 3-month break, so I just got back on a couple weeks ago. So.
Alrighty, guys. Russian fishing simulator, not drone fishing simulator. We got it. When you live in Alabama, you're going to be within a reasonable drive of Knoxville. We got to do a video about drones and fishing. I don't know what form that will take.
We got to see what legalities are, but I agree with you. We definitely got to do that video. Yeah.
All right. Good night, everybody. Everybody have a great night. We'll see you next week.
Yeah.